Parents of Reddit. What are your, I looked away for 1 second, stories? Woke up once and my 2 sons had climbed out of a window onto a flat roof. They were 1 and 3. I still don't know how they even got the window open. Went to the toilet, leaving the newborn asleep on a blanket on the floor, on top of a large fluffy carpet. 3-year-old was watching TV nearby. Came back to find baby literally rolled up in carpet like a dead body. 3-year-old sitting on top, with a cushion under him too. Still don't know how he did it at all, let alone so quickly. And how the baby was totally chilled and unharmed. Husband reading a sign about watching your children on the trail at Gooseberry Falls in MN. Looks up to see middle child heading to the edge of trail. People fall every year. Some die. I was further down the trail with the youngest. He kept a firm grip on her for the rest of the walk. Not my kid. But about 20 minutes ago a toddler just kinda wandered into my apartment. I had the door unlocked so maintenance could come in and out while working on something. My daughter and I heard the TV go on, and sure enough some little blonde girl with cute pigtails is just plopped down watching cartoons. Lol. Her parents were probably shitting bricks. My daughter was 18 months old. Standing in between my husband and me in the kitchen. Arm distance from both of us. She slipped, fell and broke 2 front teeth. I had been drinking scotch one evening while doing dishes. So I'm standing at the sink. I hear my 3-year-old stumble into the room. Pull a chair out from the table and climb up. I'm not thinking anything of this until I hear a small voice say, "Juice." As I turn to watch him dump about half an ounce of single malt into his mouth. This was immediately followed by a gasp. Then he turned bright white. Then bright red. He went to bed early that night. When my daughter was little, probably about 3, she went with me to shop for some tools. I turned away to look at something and heard behind me, "Daddy. What's this?" Honey. That's an axe. Please give it to me." She did. And all was well. But I'm glad my wife wasn't there, she would have panicked. I glanced at the salt. And toddler daughter grabbed a whole new potato off my plate and shoved it in her mouth. She then tried to swallow it and choked. Longest 15 seconds on my life getting it out of her. Learn child first aid, people. They are suicide machines as toddlers. *edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. My toddler at the time grabbed a stick of butter out of the fridge and tossed it into the fish tank. Minutes later all the fish were floating dead in the fish tank. Last time we owned fish, I had taken my 4-year daughter into a public toilet in France, which was next to a main road. As we left, I let go of her hand for a split second as I looked away to close the door behind us. When I looked back, she was running into the main road as she'd seen her mom on the other side. From where I stood, my view of the road was obstructed so I couldn't see if any cars were coming. And she had gone too far for me to catch her. By a complete miracle, she got safely over the road. It sends shivers down my spine remembering the helpless terror I felt when I saw her in the middle of the road. I'm not the parent in this scenario, but I'll share the story anyway. I was in college and had a club meeting. Some of the people involved were non-traditional students with a toddler, and they had the kid there at the time. Okay, no big deal. He was pretty much entertaining himself. The parents were trying to pay attention to what was going on, much like the rest of us. When this one guy jumps out of his chair with a yell and grabs the kid. Turns out the kid had been playing with his dad's keys and was headed for the electrical outlet with them. I had made lunch for my daughter who was only about 2 years old. It was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I handed it to her and realized I left her drink on the counter. I turned and grabbed the drink, and when I went to hand it to her, she was gone. So was the sandwich. I go to the living room and she was stuffing it into the VCR. I asked her why and she said it was hungry. Poor VCR never did work right after that. I work from home. My son is usually with me while I work in the evening. One night I take a call. He was sitting on the floor next to me playing with his cars. He's 3. The next minute, I look over and watching him as he is flying through the air next to me. He had climbed up on our table and just launched himself off. I always mute myself when I'm not speaking when he's home, so thank God the customer didn't hear my "Oh my God" as I caught him lol. My sister baked some cookies to share at work. And when her 3-year-old daughter seen them on the plate on the counter, she asked for one. Instead of explaining she wasn't allowed to have one, my sister lied and said they were yucky, implying it was a bad batch. My sister, confident that her lie was successful, turned her back to finish cleaning up. She heard the plate being removed from the counter and turned around just in time to see all the cookies slide off the plate into the garbage. Her daughter smiled and just said, "Yucky." I swear babies that can't even flip over yet can teleport short distances when no one is observing them. You put that thing down in one spot. Turn your back on it for 1 second and then it's moved a few feet away. They can do this because they don't understand how it's impossible. When babies learn enough about physics and object permanence to be able to move and navigate, they lose the ability to teleport. Because then they know enough to figure out it can't be done. Left my son at the kitchen counter while preparing pancakes. 1 minute he's there. The next thing I know he successfully empties the syrup bottle all over the couch. I mean puddles of syrup in our cushions and pillows. First time as a parent I remember calling my mom crying because I was at such a loss for how to clean it all up. My baby girl had run off on me between a diaper change. I walked to the kitchen to put her old diaper in the trash, and when I walked back into the living room, she had soft pooped on the floor. Then my cat, having a case of zoomies, die-hard dived into it. Into the poop. Getting ready for my first Christmas party at a company. It's a family affair. We all looked great. Hubby was already in the car. Ran to the bedroom for something I forgot. We were running a little late. Ended up going to the party with my 3-year-old looking like a Smurf because he thought my blue nail polish was just like mommy's makeup. Still to this day don't know how he got the cap unscrewed because he's 10 now and can't open an already cracked bottle of water to save his life. Woman shrugging. Found my baby boy had climbed to the top of a 4 feet tall dresser after stripping naked and covered his entire body, face and hair with diaper cream. He performed this act in less than 3 minutes. Not a parent but the kid in the story. I have 2 younger sisters. They are twins and only 12 months younger than me. When I was 3 and they were 2. Me and sis 1 put sis 2 in the washing machine while my mom went for a pee. She came back right in time because we were already playing with the buttons. I was sitting in a high chair. Climbed out of it, onto the counter, and stole my mother's coffee. All she did was to put her shoes at the door. 3 feet away. I was the kid in this situation. But when I was about 16 now. My mom was helping me out of the shower and she turned around to grab a towel. Turned back mere seconds later. And I was standing in the same spot but my face was covered in blood. I somehow managed to fall onto the rail for the sliding door and shoot back up to my feet instantly. I passed out shortly after and went to the ER. 17 stitches in my forehead. Major concussion. I was lucky to survive TBH. I looked away for 1 second and my son, 1 year at the time, ate my pack of cigarettes that I thought he couldn't reach. Called poison control and they told me he'd be fine. And he'll probably throw up. When he did throw up, noticed he only ate a little bit if the tobacco. No filters or anything. I quit soon after that. When my sister, brother and I were young, probably 2, 4 and 5 or thereabouts, my mom left the room for 2 minutes and in that time we had managed to spray an entire container of baby powder around the room. She said it looked like it had snowed in there. My husband was watching our kids, 2 and approximately 6 months at the time, in the bath and swears he looked down at his phone for just 1 second and then looked up just in time to see the 6-month-old putting a pea into his mouth and eating it. Where did he get a pea in the bathtub, you might ask? From the stealth poop he did in that 1 second. Growing up we had a shed with our laundry room attached to our porch. My mom had me sitting on the floor of the porch playing with some toys. I was about 2. While she was doing laundry, I was just out of her eye line for the time it takes to start a load of laundry. But by the time she turned around I had somehow managed to find a snake and had picked it up and was playing with it. On more than one occasion my daughter jumped into her bath fully clothed. I was turned around to get the bubbles or her toys or something and then SPLOOSH. She was like 2. Lol. Most recently I was sitting down after finishing some chores and she walked up to me really proud with a chunk of her hair. Look mama, I cut my hair. She just turned 5. Went to pee. Put my kiddos in their room with the door open and the gate up. I also had the bathroom door open. Come out to find a dozen eggs cracked on the kitchen floor and into the butter and my youngest covered in peanut butter naked. My now ex-husband was sleeping. I walked into our room, woke him up and tagged out. My brain was fried at that point. To this day I have no clue how they escaped. They are 16 and 18 now. My mom told me a story about me when I was 3 to 4 years old. She went to the kitchen for something and I got oddly quiet. Somehow my super speed powers activated and I was all the way in the bathroom. Climbed into the sink and got my dad's razor. She walked in on me shaving my face. I looked like a baby vampire that discovered blood for the first time. Face just gushing with blood. I'm smiling and giggling and my mother was absolutely mortified. I'm in my mid-20s now and still have scars on my face from this. Edit. I am a girl so it's kinda funny to say that I got a scar from shaving my face. Obligatory not apparent. I was watching my sister's kids and told them we would grill for dinner and have pie. I went to the bathroom. Came back. And the pie was all over the living room. When I asked them what happened, they told me it was daylight savings time. So dinner was now. I couldn't help but laugh. Edit. Pack to back. Don't type before coffee. Kids. This happened last year as we were in lockdown. My 2 children, 8 and 2, were jumping on the bed. I walked in, scolded them and they stopped. Not 2 steps out of me leaving the room, I hear the springs again and the worst scream in the world. Evidently, eldest pushed youngest in excitement. A bit too hard. And youngested hit her eyebrow hard against the side cupboard. It was bloody anarchy. Rushed to the emergency room with screaming from baby the entire drive. And only one of us could go in. Ended up needing plastic surgery and lucky to have full eyesight with her crushed in skull. Edit. Word. Sorry to drop a tragic story. But here goes. It wasn't me, but someone who worked right across the hall from. They had a bed at window height. Young baby was on the bed and the window was open. He turned away for a second to address his other kid. Baby is missing. Baby fell 2 or 3 stories out the window and died in impact. Needless to say, the dad took quite a bit of time off work after that and wasn't the same after. I didn't even know how to talk to him anymore. It that we were ever closer. But it's always at the forefront of your mind even when making small talk. It was a Sunday morning, afternoon. My mother was driving to get the papers. I managed to unlock my seatbelt, open the window and jump out head first. I swore I would never tell this. At 19, I have a 9-month-old baby. I leave her on the bed to go pee. A beautiful spring day. Windows open. Cleaning. I come back. She's gone. Yet I can hear her. I am frantic. Alone. And losing it. I check under the bed. In between the bed and the wall. Everywhere. Until I look up and realize the screen is out. She fell out the window into a bush outside and was laughing hysterically. Not one scratch on her. She's 17 now and I haven't ever shared that story with her or anyone but my therapist until today. Telling it on my dad's behalf. On a fishing trip and I fell in a rapid while playing on the rocks. Never a strong swimmer. Just kinda started my travel to the sea. He barely caught me by the arm. He was playing outside in the sandbox just 10 feet from me. I had the window and door open and could hear him playing. Suddenly I was aware that he wasn't making any noise. I couldn't find him. I searched the yard. I asked strangers on the street and made a larger and larger circle and met my neighbors. 10 long minutes and he was nowhere. He had curled up in his stroller and was asleep. When I was a kid, my mom was watching me play while hanging laundry. When she turned to hang a garment, I discovered a bouncy spot in the grass and fell down a 100-ish year-old abandoned well. She said that day took years off her life. Edit. So much Reddit attention. I'm blushing and my hands are sweaty. I have social anxiety and now I feel like everyone is looking at me. I'm trying to answer everything I can. I turned my back for 1 second. I don't remember what I was doing, but it was very quick. And my 3-year-old climbed on a chair, then on the counter, then got in top of the fridge and ate an entire bottle of ibuprofen. He was dribbling out pills and was covered in red spit from the coating. Poison control told me he could safely ingest 100 of them, but if it had been Tylenol it would be a different story. Not a parent but the child of the parent. When I was 6 years old we were at the pier and I wanted to play with the fish in the water. At that point I had tried to jump off the pier 2 times prior and my mother knew better than to take her eyes off me or just me and her. She took my grandpa, who didn't believe I tried to jump off the pier to play in the water, and he took his eyes off me. All my mom heard was my grandfather say fuck louder than she ever heard and saw me dangling by my ankle from my grandpa's hand just barely in time before he would have grabbed my shoe. I was making cookies with my 2 sons and the younger one was being potty trained. I turned around to grab some ingredient. Turned back around and my youngest proudly showed me how he managed to pee in the measuring cup. Sure enough, little stinker had had like 3 accidents in his undies that day, but every drop got into the measuring cup. That cup was promptly thrown away. I am the child in the situation. They looked away and I ran in the pool. Didn't know how to swim and almost drowned. Thankfully my uncle happened to walk outside and saw me. I was the kid. Maybe 2 or 3. Walked off the end of a dock into 20 feet deep water. I was bobbing up and down trying to keep my hand out of the water. Yes, hand. Not head. My uncle pulled me out and I got mad at him for dunking my hand underwater. I had a grasshopper. It was very important that he not get wet. The grasshopper may or may not have been the reason I didn't see the end of the dock as I walked off it. My uncle and I had many more misadventures together throughout my childhood. This was probably the first though. My dad's story. I was just an infant. My mom was working an overnight shift, so it was just the two of us for the evening. He had me on a blanket on the floor and had just changed my diaper. He left the room long enough to throw the diaper away and comes back and infant me is gone. After a few minutes of frantic searching and freaking out because his baby seemingly disappeared in less than a minute, he finds me. I had rolled all the way under my crib, almost against the wall. He said he was unaware that I could roll yet. It really gave him a start. When she was a toddler just beginning to walk. Walked in to find she had toddled over to the cabinet holding various decorations and all that. She was eating a scented candle. Just using her little claws to scrape up some wax and then eat it. Looked up with a big ol' grin like, "Hey, I found candy." When I was a toddler, my mum took me to IKEA. She looked away for 1 second. Looked back and I was gone. One store-wide search and multiple panic attacks later. They found me hiding in a wardrobe. I put some beer down by my bar in a plastic bag. Set them down on the floor. Turned around to put some other things away. Turn back around to see my one yo holding a bottle of beer by the neck. Raise it up and then slam it down on the floor. Bottle bursts wide open, slicing his thumb from the hand to the tip. Looked like when you slice a hot dog down the middle. Nice long ride to the hospital and then watching my son scream his lungs out while getting numbed up for stitches. That was 21 years ago and I can still see it vividly in my mind's eye. Not a parent but a sister. To a little brother with a developmental disability and absolutely no shame or fear. Anytime we didn't see him for more than a minute, odds are he was naked and climbing on the roof. Or naked and bouncing on the neighbor's trampoline. Nudity and danger were that kid's favorite methods of self-expression. So many of these stories. Maybe the most consequential was my 4 years old pulling out a dresser drawer to climb up to reach TV. On top of dresser. In an instant, the dresser began to tip. My 5 years old daughter right next to him stopped the dresser TV from crushing him. She ended up with a hernia that had to be surgically repaired. So scary. This was way back in 2000. I think parents hopefully know better now. Makes me sick, guilty thinking of it right now. I was the little shit they turned away from. Family outing to the mall when I was 4 and obsessed with Star Wars. 1982. My mom ran to the ladies' room. My dad was to watch my older brother and me. Brother wanted to see something on a top shelf. I ran off while my dad's back was turned. My mom comes back to me missing and the search starts. A few moments later over the loudspeaker. Would the parents of a little boy named Luke Skywalker come to the security desk? There I was with a lollipop, Star Wars coloring book and a smile.